It's time to talk about all the best comic books this week. We've got a host of comic books, and I do want to say just up front, DC had a terrible week last week. We couldn't recommend any of their comics, but we've got a bunch of DC, and Marvel was kind of not so up to snuff this week, and we've definitely got some great indie comics. And here with me is Drew from Comics Elite, also the proud author of a second very well-performing Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, Naughty Catfight versus Naughty and Nice, 3 Girls, 1 Coat. It made just under 75 grand. Born of Blood just did just under almost 100K. So yeah, I am on cloud 9 right now.
Well, I'm glad you're in a good mood because we're going to talk about some damn good comic books. We're going to talk about the indies, Marvel, and then DC. We're going to do the indies first, as we always do. I'm personally recommending Ice Cream Man number 28 from Image Comics. This is like a horror anthology. Well, it's not really an anthology, but every issue is basically a one shot for the most part. W. Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo on art. It's an indie comic. They're not always going to have the best art, so I don't love the art in this one, but it's a really interesting story about a man that is all about words, and he's so obsessed with words that he's like lost his family, he's lost his children, and as he's scaling this mountain to meet this monk that's going to tell him the origin of the first word and make him like God, like he's even sacrificing the other members of his trek.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you don't realize. It's a good story about obsession. Going too far with your goals and it just putting everything in the rearview mirror. It just, and the end of it is just desserts to what he did. And to be honest with you, the last 2 issues of Ice Cream Man have been really damn good. This one and the last one was like a Kafka-esque one, but reverse Cockroach Man. Damn good stuff.
Yeah, if you're really into horror and you haven't been checking out Ice Cream Man, it is going on a hiatus until I believe April. So you got a few months to catch up, and there's just some really interesting stuff. And W. Maxwell Prince he's just a really good writer. If you haven't read Ha, it's a similar kind of series where every issue is something different. That one's got a little bit different spin on it, also from Image as well. But Ice Cream Man is just one of those really, really solid comic books out there that a lot of people I think would be happier if they were reading. Now, you're going to Bad Idea. I can't read Bad Idea unless they are shipped to me, and I'm very lucky that Doc and my buddy Dave have been taking care of that for me. Obviously, I won't be able to read this anytime soon, but Monster Kill Squad number 3 got a writer I love, Christos Gage, and an artist I really love, Tomas Giorello. Obviously discovered them while they're at Valiant. What's so great about this one?
This series has just been a blast. The concept is simple. This legit kill squad going out to take out any kind of monster you can imagine. There's going to be killer clowns, Cenobite monsters like we're getting this one. And they're using like different methods in each issue. And in this issue, I truly appreciated because at one point I was writing contracts for the government. So you have effectively Cenobites from Hellraiser in this issue, and they're taking them out via a contract. And they're bogging them down with the terms and conditions of the contract, and it is hysterical. I cannot recommend this series enough. Christos Gage is a terrific writer.
Oh, he is. And Tomas Giorello, I imagine he's not at the big 2 because he doesn't want to be at the big 2 because his art is just as good as anything that you'll find at DC or Marvel, if not better than a vast majority.
Absolutely. Kyle and I, we did a review. We did a preview of the upcoming, like the final 5, I think that Bad Idea was doing, and he had his preview pages up for the first issue. And they're all black and white. So these killer clowns, they're turning people into these little balloon animal things. It is disgusting. It's awesome. He is a terrific artist, and we need to see more of him.
So there's a couple of other indie comics that we wanted to mention real quick. We won't go as in depth on these, but Gunslinger Spawn number 4 from Image. Obviously, it's the Brett Booth art for me that really bringing that one home. And then Stray Dogs Dog Days number 2, another one of those anthologies where you're learning more about the dogs that we met in that very fascinating series, Stray Dogs.
Yeah, Trish. She is a phenomenal artist. She's a phenomenal person. We've done a couple interviews with her. And it's amazing. She goes from doing My Little Ponies to this. It's remarkable.
Well, you can see how, because the art is very. It's meant for you to drop your guard, and then they just sucker punch you with what's actually going on with the comic. Obviously, I think it's Tony Fleeks is the writer. Yes. Absolutely fantastic creative team on that one. I think this is the final issue of this, though, correct?
It is the final issue, and it's kind of like the wrap up of the final animals that we were introduced to in the main series. And in this one, it's much more touching and powerful because we get the backstory of the three-legged Dalmatian in the story.
Oh my goodness!
And yeah, we see what the firehouse did, the firefighters did post the discovery of the killer, and it's just desserts for what happened.
Well, that sounds fascinating. Now let's go over to Marvel. I personally have already talked about the 2 Marvel comics I would recommend. They're both X-Men comics. You're going to need to watch that video. You have another Marvel comic that you personally would like to recommend. Some people were upset with Thor 20, where we had I guess the reveal of the gender identity of Mjolnir. But Donny Cates and Nick Klein, Thor's really been solid.
It has been solid, and I take more offense to just the blandness of how she looked. It just, like I said it before, I told Sean, like, she looks just like Danger from the Astonishing X-Men run that Joss Whedon did, just bland. But we do see just how powerful she is, and she may or may not have joined with something else from out in space, and not looking too good for Thor. It is a very action-packed issue, very kinetic, and Thor is for a world of pain in the next issue.
Yeah, God of Hammers has been really good so far. I personally, Donny Cates is my favorite writer, but I do like him. Nick Klein's art has been pretty much sterling the entire time when he's been doing these Thor series. And we know they're also moving towards this Thor Hulk crossover kind of event that should be a lot of fun. So personally, I'm still liking Thor. The gender reveal of Mjolnir, I thought didn't bother me. I was like, it's a fucking hammer. I don't care.
Yeah.
The same thing with Mogo. They're like, who cares if they call the planet a girl? It's like, it's a fucking planet, man.
Is it really that important?
It didn't do anything for me, but definitely go out there and read Thor. But Marvel just was not on top of their game like DC Comics were this week. We got the end of Superman 78, Robert Venditti, Wilfredo Torres, and they definitely brought it home. It's a really fun story, and if you like Superman, Christopher Reeve Superman from the movies, you're gonna love this comic series. And I thought, the way that Robert Venditti was able to kind of wrap it up with the Brainiac story, we got some Lex Luthor out there, little plot thread hanging out there, and with the modeled city of Kandor introducing it kind of the movie universe, it's just all really appealing and just a wonderful, finish to the story. And Robert always does great finishes, so.
Yes, he did. The story had a beginning, a middle, and an end. You can't ask for more from a miniseries like that. And he knocked it out of the park. Job well done. My brother, he was. Can we get a little spoilers with this? Can we talk about things? My brother didn't like the Goonies element but I told Kyle, I'm like, look, Richard Donner directed the Goonies. All right, who cares? Who cares? I mean, Kyle, come on, it's a comic book. It is an homage to Richard Donner. All right,
but have a little fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say, I wish we had gotten a little bit more Lex Luthor there at the end, but
he kind of just disappears, and then they mention him in passing.
Yes, but hey, it's fine. He lives to fight another day. But
if you're doing a movie, that'd be the cliffhanger.
Exactly. And I really, truly hope we get like a part 2, of like continuing with more villains from the comics into the movies from the 78 universe. This was too much fun.
I will say this. I do have an interview coming up on the channel tomorrow with Robert Venditti. I might have asked him that question. It's a longer interview. It was about an hour. I couldn't stop talking, and he was very kind to kind of humor me and actually spend an hour talking about Valiant Comics and his work on Hawkman and obviously Bad Idea and Superman 78. So that one's great. If you like Robert Venditti, you're going to love that interview. And I don't fangirl out too hard on that one.
I can't wait to listen to that because I love long form interviews. I look forward to that.
Now, the other one I'm going to recommend, since I didn't recommend anything from Marvel in this video, I'm going to twofer on Superman. Superman Son of Kal-El might suck ass, but Action Comics 1039, Philip Kennedy Johnson, Ricardo Federici, when they announced Federici kind of coming onto the series, I'm like, well, it's obviously the two have worked together with The Last God. He's got some really cool art style. He's got a very distinctive line art that he uses. I didn't know if it was right for Superman, but it absolutely works perfectly for Superman on Warworld, basically becoming a gladiatorial slave.
His art, like you said, I'm like, I don't know if the story is fitting it, but then he gets to this issue. I'm like, perfect. This is the perfect story, and I love in the backstory of Warworld. That was under Warworld, it's awesome, just nasty, it's dark, bleak, and I really, truly hope it just. I want this to be a solid, good story because it's been so good so far. I hope he just brings it home. I really hope so.
One of the interesting things that Philip K. Johnson's doing in this one is we start, obviously, when we get to Warworld, it's a bang. Like, oh my goodness, like they're dropping characters left and right. Everyone's scattered and you don't know what's going to happen. And, obviously it's hinted that Superman dies. We knew that wasn't going to be the case. He was on the next cover. But the pacing afterwards has been really good. Like, they're giving you like the big action scene. But then, you get this really good opportunities to tell you exactly what's going on, what Clark is experiencing, what the other members of the Authority are kind of doing, and they're not all working on the same page. And I think it's the pacing is what really sets this one apart, and it feels like a periodic, episodic comic book, and that's what they're supposed to.
Absolutely, and there are elements brought in at the end of this issue. I really think we're going to see a different, because we're veering away from Future State, which is a good thing. And it looks like that story, I think we're going to be veering away from that. It looks like, because there's a character we see that's still alive at the very end. It's like, oh, I think we're going to get a different ending here to this with him alive. And I really hope we get a more optimistic ending as opposed to a bleak one from Future State.
Absolutely. So the final comic book we'll talk in depth for DC Comics, I've really enjoyed this. Obviously, we're working up to this Shadow War event that's going to be a crossover between Robin, Batman, and Deathstroke Inc. Mm-hmm. I like that Deathstroke Inc. I'm surprised they wrapped up that first story that they kind of set out so quickly, but they're obviously moving on. Deathstroke Inc. #5, Josh Williamson, Howard Porter. Really good stuff. If you like Deathstroke.
Oh, I love this series. This series is too damn good. And to be honest with you, I really think if I wanted to give Joshua Williamson his focus of books, I think Deathstroke Inc. is #1, Robin is like #2, and Batman maybe like a 2B. But Deathstroke
right
Inc.
there.
Yeah, they really are. But Deathstroke Inc. is just so much fun, and like we get the reveal of the council, the Trust Council in this, who they are, and the ending of it does not go the way I thought it was going to go at all, and I loved it, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. And our boy, Nathan Zerdy, he had a 1-in-25 ratio, his first DC ratio variant. He did for awesome. Black Canary. Yeah, it's hot.
If you like that art, definitely go to the Comics Elite website because they got lots of Nathan Zerdy store exclusive covers. I hadn't, obviously I'd thought about it, but I really hadn't, really when you look at DC on their ongoing, what's really worth their time, it's like Flash, Robin, Batman, Deathstroke. It's like, okay, it's mostly Josh Williamson.
Go figure.
He obviously is doing a great job. He's also got the miniseries Justice League Incarnate, which I know other people are enjoying as well. I'm personally.
Yeah, it's like I'm kind of.
But he's absolutely kicking butt and taking names over at DC Comics. It feels like they're elevating him to being like the next DC guy, like the guy that's the main writer.
We can hope, because I really hope it's a case like what happened to. Well, it didn't turn out too well at the end, but like with Tynan, where his Batman run started out so strong, but like we'll bring him back on board. We're going to change things up. I hope these two issues, like DC notices, hey, these were damn good, great reception. He stays on board as the Batman writer because those two issues have been amazing.
Absolutely. Well, he's got a full plate. We'll see what happens there. The other one we'll talk about real short. This is better than it has any right to be. DC versus Vampires #4. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I believe it's James Tynan and Matthew Rosenberg co-writing it. It's pretty fun.
It is so much fun. You hit it, and it is way better than it should be. It is so much fun. You don't know what to expect. The dialogue is perfect, well paced. The illustration is okay. The art is kind of it's not bad, but still it is fun. And to be honest with you, I am enjoying this more than Deceased. I had to really think about this. This is just fun, and I can't wait to read this again when it's collected. Yeah, I really want to know where this story, like how much influence Rosenberg had with Tynan, like who did the most work with this? Where was it?
I imagine Tynan outlined it, and then Rosenberg is finishing it.
They both brought it home. Rosenberg brought it home. Good for him.
Because Tynan said he pitched this idea and started concepting it when 5G was announced, and he didn't want to do that. So he'd been working on this. I imagine he got all the skeleton of it together, and then Rosenberg finished in the pieces as he went to Substack.
And I got to give kudos to Rosenberg then, because he nailed it. This is perfect. I mean, it's just a perfectly fun comic.
Very happy to see DC get back in the good graces of the channel here, because last week was so bad. But they had a handful of books you can actually absolutely read, and there were more good books from DC this week. They absolutely made Marvel look foolish with the amount of quality out there, and the indie scene once again definitely delivered. I do want to say thank you once again to Drew from Comics Elite. Do you have any final words for the viewers?
Go out there and read more comics, guys.
As I mentioned earlier, my Marvel Comics recommendations were both X-Men. Doc and I actually reviewed them yesterday, and if you want to hear Doc gush and say nice things about X-Men, it's all there. Doc actually wasn't salty for once. Check it out.